Kia ora manuhiri. Hello everybody. Welcome to Aotearoa, New Zealand, Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland, on one of the most anticipated days in world sport, the opening day of the 36th America's Cup, featuring the teams that designed these magnificent AC-75 flying monohulls. Challenger of record Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli and defender Emirates Team New Zealand. Two nations from the opposite ends of the world, desperate to get their hands on the old mug. Luna Rossa is battle-hardened. Te Rehotai finally gets to show the world what she's got. This is a 13-race series. First to 7 wins the America's Cup. Let's head to the back paddock, Course E, where conditions are ideal, with 10 to 13 knots of wind forecast. Emirates Team New Zealand on port. Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli has starboard.
The speculation on the streets here is that Spithill and Bruni might try to attack, find a little bit of a weakness in the Kiwis in this mode.
Bruni and Jimmy trying to jump here already. They could be a little bit early on the way back. Let's just follow this all the way back into the start and hear the onboard comms.
Coming up.
They're quite early on the way back here looking at this.
Coming up.
I think they're early, and the Kiwis are in an interesting spot right now. Here's this high slow mode that we've seen Luna Rossa pull off so well. Can they actually get the Kiwis off their foils?
Release the jib. Boys, and we're good. It's coming down a little.
Race it again.
Coming up hard. Full wild.
You've got the 5 lengths and a half gauge, please.
Yeah, copy. Right.
March 10, 2021, race 1 of the 36th America's Cup match. Emirates Team New Zealand, Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. No more secrets, it's all out in the open.
Stephen, this is the moment that every America's Cup cycle waits for anxiously. That first lineup, give the first bit of the advantage to the Emirates Team New Zealand, but it's speed and pace.
We flag this, Keko?
Yes.
Protest. Build. Big build.
It's a very aggressive move there from Luna Rossa, going for the luff, really trying to get a penalty there. If they don't get the penalty, they've pretty much thrown away the lead, and there you go, no penalty. So big advantage to Emirates Team New Zealand already in this race.
We expected aggression, and Jimmy Spithill tried his best to be aggressive, tried to protest, no penalty given, and it is advantage right now at this very early stage to Emirates Team New Zealand. And they will come around the mark ahead of the Challenger of record. And the one thing you discover, look at these AC-75s, they steer these things like race cars without the blink of an eye.
One right, just lifting.
Nobody's getting smoked out there right now. There isn't a massive speed difference, is there?
No, you're right. I mean, we didn't really know what to expect, and watching the Kiwis training for the past 2 months, they have looked fast, so we did wonder if that might be the case, but not much in it at all.
The gap's starting to tighten up a little bit.
Yeah, came back into him a little bit. Maybe that right side of the race course didn't quite pan out.
You'd imagine these guys have been waiting for this race for a long time. There's a lot of pressure on them internally and also externally, and they don't want to let down anyone. So far, so good. Luna Rossa look like they're still coming into them a little bit, but pretty comfortable lead right now for Emirates Team New Zealand.
Emirates Team New Zealand about to complete the halfway stage, and round the right-hand markers, we see it on the screen, and around they go.
My first inclination here is this could be a series. This is not a runaway train for the Kiwis right now.
Now, I'm right there with you, Kenny. Basically, the Italians made a slight error on the start, and they made that punchy call to go for a rule infringement. But they haven't been left behind. They are both sailing the boats so incredibly well. It's very, very impressive to watch.
You know, today's about checking in with your competition. Is your boat competitive enough to win? And the moment that Jimmy Spithill went for that luff to try and draw that penalty, he was either going to get the penalty and get in front, or he's going to be behind, and he was never going to get a proper speed check with the the other boat.
Yeah.
You know, had he have laughed and realised he wasn't going to get them, just dropped the board and tacked, he might have got a split and we would have had a 50-metre deficit. But instead we had 150 metres and now it's bouncing between 200 and 300. So
as we've learned, these boats, their sailing skills have created perfection in watching these boats go around the racecourse.
And Emirates Team New Zealand, the defender, it is race 1 and done. The W goes in the corner for Emirates Team New Zealand, and they get first points in the opening race of the match for the 36th America's Cup. Peter, no race rush there. That must be a satisfying result.
Yeah, well, it's definitely obviously good to get off the line and get a few shifts up that first beat. We found ourselves on the wrong side of everyone up the second beat, but never really thought it was worth to do the extra manoeuvre. Probably a wrong move in hindsight.
So a race-rusty Team New Zealand takes first point with a 31-second victory. But this fight has only just begun. It's race 2. Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli has port entry and Emirates Team New Zealand are on starboard.
The boat coming in on starboard tack, the Kiwis put themselves in kind of a chase position, a push position.
looks like jibing here on Luna Rossa, and New Zealand going high and tacking. They're going to push from above.
Both boats high and slow mode. Really interesting. We haven't seen anything like this in quite a while. Let's see if the Kiwis can actually try to push over the bow and try to get to leeward with the left-hand side.
Going speed. Oh, he's going behind.
Going behind. Jimmy Spithill just called it for us.
Got your board, Joshy? Yeah. Okay, bearing away here a little.
Racing. Almost racing.
Francesco Brini called their racing, which means Team New Zealand might be a little bit late for this start.
Boards up.
Racing line.
It's going to be attack. I think we tack with him.
3, 2, 1. What's coming down?
And we're a go on race number 2 of the match. Straight away, Emirates Team New Zealand split.
Jimmy Spithill called that. Let's match right away. So he's right smack into match race mode.
Copy that. Okay, looks like he's setting up potentially.
2, 1. What's coming down?
Straight away, Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli tackle them, and they're keeping them on the short side of the boundary. This has all been set up by a bad start from Emirates Team New Zealand. Bad time on distance, handed the start to Luna Rossa, and now it's all about, can Team New Zealand find a way around them, or is Luna Rossa going to be able to keep them behind?
Heading to the top gate for the first time, and it's Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli ahead of Emirates Team New Zealand as they come around the mark.
The Kiwis tacked a little early on this ley line right there, right into the bad air. So actually kind of some unforced errors we've seen for the first time in a long time in this race so far.
There you go, and now they jibe right on the ley line. That red line there is the ley line, and they'll have software on their boat telling them exactly where to jibe as well. So plan coming in here will be a left-hand turn, I suspect, for Luna Rossa, and the real question is Emirates Team New Zealand going to follow them around the same mark, or are they going to jibe and split the course?
Looking strong, looking confident as they round the mark and head up on leg number 3. 13 seconds at the top gate. And slightly less at the bottom gate. They've picked up a second.
Luna Rossa, to me, look like they're making small gains every time they tack. Whenever the boats sail in a straight line, the numbers get a little bit closer, and whenever they tack, they just grow a little bit again. And I feel like maybe there's a small advantage to Luna Rossa in the tacking.
And they've stretched their lead on the defender, Emirates Team New Zealand.
49.8 knots going around that mark on Luna Rossa. That's okay. That's not bad.
Right now, I'm thinking Emirates Team New Zealand, all they can really do is set themselves up to get out of phase again on the upwind and try and attack once again on the last upwind.
5 away. 3.
It was 24 seconds at the last mark. They've split it in half, 50% gain on the Manova leg, 12 seconds, and it's the race to home.
It's getting a bit closer and a bit tighter, and if you're an Italian fan right now, you might be starting to want to hold your breath a little bit. because you can feel Team New Zealand breathing down their neck a little bit more.
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli, beaten by 31 seconds in race number 1 of the match.
That's a good one, Jimmy.
And Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli take out race 2 of the match, and we're all tied up at 1-1.
One, push him down.
Jimmy, what a difference 30 minutes can make between races, hey?
Yeah, I thought the boys sailed a great race then. We had obviously quite a lot of manoeuvres, quite a lot of tacks, and yeah, just kept the boat going well. So it was a good sign of strength, I thought, to bounce back after that first one.
So we are deadlocked. At the end of day 1, Emirates Team New Zealand and Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli share early honours. But the battle for the 36th America's Cup has only just begun. After a build-up filled with bluster, allegations of gamesmanship and talk of one-sided racing, both teams put their form, strength and weaknesses on show. What did we learn? Don't assume anything. The deadlock continued for the next couple of days as the two teams traded wins.
Looks like it's close to not getting up to this lane.
Yeah, yes. Probably cannot fight.
Looks like the Kiwis are marginally off their foils right now. They got slow in that maneuver.
Really strong position for Luna Rossa here at this point in time. If Emirates Team New Zealand can get it up and going and lay the pin in, could be an even start still.
Good separation.
Only just on the pin, but all good.
Down a bit, maybe. Yeah,
Under one up here. All the way.
We are go. Race 3 of the match in the 36th America's Cup. Clean start by both. Emirates Team New Zealand, Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli.
Transition when you can. 2, 1, push him down. Coming in tight.
2, 1, port down.
1, forward. Good. Just cover. You call it how far, Andy?
So what we'll expect now is Luna Rossa to lure it in front. They're in a leave-out position here. This is the long landing across the other boundary. If Luna Rossa can go a high mode, Team New Zealand might struggle. We saw this several times against Ineos and also against American Magic. Prada having this high, slow mode, squeezing the competitor off.
This next puff, and then we can go back.
There's lots of talk about boat speed differences, but it's also got a lot to do with the angles at which they're sailing. I think Team New Zealand probably are going through the water faster, and hopefully after the race we can get a bit of data to show the speed differences. But for me, it's the angles. It's how good Prada are at sailing a high mode. Their tack losses look less with those bigger foils, and they look like they're sailing a little bit slower on average, but the angle they're sailing to the wind is narrower. So they're ending up doing less distance. So in these lighter winds, the bigger foils are working for them right now.
We might be seeing a pivotal moment in the America's Cup match on the Hauraki Gulf, because Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli has just won another race. They go ahead 2-1 in the match against the defender. Here's a quick recap of race 4.
The Kiwis are dangerously close to being off their foils, but they seem to be able to pop up pretty easily from this spot.
It's not foiling. They could be coming in here for a hook. They're going on the attack here. Jimmy Spittle on the attack.
You better be sure you can attack from here if you're going to get yourself down in this spot, though.
Both going to reach down the line.
Get a good charge in.
Charging. No lower, no lower.
Start race 4 of the America's Cup match. Nervous start for Emirates Team New Zealand, but they are away.
But much tighter. This is very different from the last start. Prada started much closer to the hip of the Kiwis. The Kiwis should be able to fend them off this time around.
Port down.
Yep. There you go, Luna Rossa attacking straight away. Peter Burling said he was happy with his first start, but they gave too much gap.
Here comes the key moment. Stephen? Starboard tack boat, Luna Rossa has right away at the top of the screen.
5 away.
Have we potentially seen our first pass? I'm not so sure.
Where has he got him, man?
He's rebounding.
Copy. It's still trying to dribble, guys. It's really wide here. Two. One. Four down.
Carrying on. Yep. 9.
The attacking duel begins.
Who thought? Who would have thought?
And it will be Emirates Team New Zealand leading for the first time in 2 races, excuse me. 2 races, and around the top mark they go.
Definitely the closest race we've had so far of the match. 50 metres downwind. We're used to seeing more like 150 metres, so see how much a jibe loss is here. Luna Rossa just jibing now. It's going to go from 50 just over to 100. That shows you how much distance they're getting lost in manoeuvres.
Slow jibe there by Luna Rossa, almost off the foils down to 18, 19 knots. Doesn't even look like they may make this mark. If they do, it's going to be barely, probably with both boards down.
That's probably the first error we've seen by either team in the last 2 days, that bad jibe there by Prada. And it's effectively let what was a pretty close race into now quite a large lead, and if you make a mistake like that, you're now just waiting for the other team to make the mistake.
Scorecard now, Emirates Team New Zealand 2, Luna Rossa 2. Now, let's reflect on race 5.
Both boats have gotten quite slow here, Nathan. Really slow and dangerously close to being off the foils.
Both boats really struggling right now, or just early and killing time.
Kiwis are just trying to get up in the air right now, Nathan. I'm not so sure they're out of the water yet, and they're using that kind of that 90-degree wind angle to pop out of the water. Got them right down into bad air and in a really bad spot.
Yeah, we're just going to get to attacking speed.
Time to go racing. It's race 5, the 36th America's Cup match, and Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli across the line first.
Wow. The smaller foils in the lighter winds and the pre-start, and you can't get caught slow. That was leading back a little bit early on Emirates Team New Zealand, having to go slow, dropping off the foils and having the smaller foils and struggling to take off.
I'll tell you what, the meters behind are not getting larger. They're actually just kind of hanging in around 200, maybe even a little under right now. So, again, the Kiwi boat has a fast mode. We know that. It always sails more distance, but, man, are they fast, both upwind and downwind.
I don't know, you got to say, if you are able to close a bit of time down going upwind while sailing in someone's dirt, your boat's going fast.
Boys in this lefty.
Luna Rossa, they've bossed this race course, haven't they? They've gone exactly where they wanted to go. Currently just right down the middle and the maximum pressure. It's hard to see, barring a mistake or, you know, a bit of a massive error by Luna Rossa, it's hard to see how the Kiwis are going to get past.
A little pressure on now, and a little lefty again.
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli will cross the line and go 3-2 up in the match.
Going into race 6, it was clear one mistake is all it takes to turn a win into a loss.
He's struggling to get going there. Okay, a little bit transition feet.
Coming in with heat right now. Looks like they're going to try to just roll right over the top. Luna Rossa looks late.
Very late, I think, yeah.
Winding up.
Wow.
The start of race number 6 in the match, and just when Emirates Team New Zealand needed to execute a good start, they've done the job. They need the win to stay in the match.
It's really, really patchy now. It's down to sort of 6-7 knots at the bottom of the course. Just really bad timing from the Italian outfit. They came round and just sat in a real light spot and never got going.
pretty soft out of this, obviously.
It's interesting to me that the Kiwis have been a little rough around the edges with their sailing. And boy, if I were the Italians, I'd be thinking we're missing an opportunity to try to really end this early before these guys get sharper, don't you think?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I mean, I wouldn't go as far as say the Kiwis are rusty, but you can tell they have not raced all summer like the Italians have. And just the nuances of it, you know, just the positioning and the timing. You know, it's split seconds, and, you know, that's every race that goes by. Glenn said it this morning. You know, every race that goes by, they're just getting better and better and sharper and sharper. So I think you're absolutely right. Missed opportunity.
Well, that was a day of 2 halves, wasn't it?
Emirates Team New Zealand come across the line, and we are still locked up in this match. It is now 3-all between Emirates Team New Zealand and Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli.
I think we just dropped 100 metres straight in front of us. Yeah. Nice work, fellas. Good comeback. Go on, boys.
So after 3 days, we are none the wiser. The deadlock continues. The America's Cup is still anyone's cup. Emirates Team New Zealand and Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli have spent days looking for consistency in inconsistent wind conditions. Both teams know a breakaway is on the cards, and mistakes will prove extremely costly. Let's head to the start box for race 7. Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli has port entry with Emirates Team New Zealand on starboard.
Quite a bit bigger jib on the Luna Rossa boat, Nathan, than the Kiwi boat right now. Really one of the only real noticeable differences.
Yeah, that's a really good pickup. It's an indication on maybe one team thinks the wind's going to build a little bit, but again, I still think, look at this start, you know, Team New Zealand here are really trying to put a bit of pressure on them, trying to block the jibe here, or at least thinking about jibing inside here. Let's follow this, see how they go. There you go,
Jumping them and getting back early. Let's listen on board.
Board out on the breeze. 2, 1, feet up, 2 board. He's still boarding, yeah. No, slow. He's pushing.
Looking like they're above ley line and looking like they're quite early.
24 on pin.
Quite early, and actually being slow there for a second actually was a benefit to the Italians. They got a nice little gap. Hurling's going to have to bear away at some stage.
Can see a big gap between the boats when the start comes. Wide right for Italy here.
Here comes the slingshot move for Spithill.
Both boats over the line right now, having to do a big bear away to get going. It's all about the slingshot here.
Race 7 of the America's Cup match. We're at 3-all. Can anyone make a big move today?
They got tight there, Nathan, right at the end. Burling actually slowed the boat down a bit and got it tight. Is it tight enough to be able to fend off their position as they head towards this for the first time?
Well, he got tight and a little luff starting to come in, but Luna Rossa were over 5 knots faster at their gun, and look at this, they're starting to roll over them. Peter Burling goes for the luff, Jimmy Spithill responds, and now all of a sudden, Jimmy's pressing. You can hear Francesco Brin saying, press, press, press. Clear win for Luna Rossa in that start.
The Kiwis are keen to engage Luna Rossa in attacking duel, and we know that's a big strength of the Italians, and they've thrown in more tacks in the bottom half of this beat than we've seen previously. I'll be interested to see what the next move is from Emirates Team New Zealand. Have they just got their air clear forwards? This game is changing very quickly from the heli.
And then a match race broke out, you know, just tight. If you're the Italians right now, at least if I were on the Italian boat, I'm thinking that boat behind me is really fast. I'm just going to sit here and block and block and block, and they're going to have to really work to get through me.
And it was a good downward leg for the Italian challengers. They hit on the start of leg number 3 of 6. Not too far behind. In come Emirates Team New Zealand.
Very controlling, very aggressive move by the Italians right there. I didn't see that coming. forces the Kiwis, even though the Italians lost a little bit of distance there, it forced the Kiwis into a move right away, so they had to get out of the disturbed air of the Italians.
Any right-hand shift right now, Emirates Team New Zealand are back in this race. If they get a nice tack, could be a port starboard situation coming up, and it looks like we've had a lead change, but a lead change isn't confirmed until they make the cross.
More pressure on our left. Yeah, when it attacks, I think we need to protect left if we can. Yeah, a little lighter here, kicks.
Kiwis on starboard, Stephen. They have the rights.
Hold your breath for just one moment. Match 7. Key moment or not? Hold your breath.
Okay, my runner.
Slowly winding up us.
Crossing.
Lock faster us, please. Happy to gauge up a little. Take some gauge now, just for the safety. Already high.
It's a big moment in this race. If Team New Zealand can hold to the boundary here, they're going to convert this into a pass, and it'll be our first pass of the America's Cup.
I think it's an easy pass right now.
Get the speed, we start trying up on high mode here.
They're faster, they're faster.
3, got to tack behind, 4 down. Here we go. May get a hook here.
Fast mod, yeah.
Right in there, yes. Keep pressing. Pressing another half a boat length down.
We saw it on the first beat, and we've seen it again. That Kiwi boat is ripping upwind. It is going really fast. We have not seen these speed advantages to either boat yet. This is big.
Coming up now. Port's going down.
This is the boat speed that people have been talking about from Team New Zealand for a long time, and now it's just over that threshold. The speed is there, and they've got the angle back there on the breeze, and they're going same angle, but 3 knots faster.
3, 2, 1.
Emirates Team New Zealand, in a match that featured the first pass of the match, win race number 7, and they take a lead. They go up 4-3 when it matters.
The Kiwis find form in stronger winds and go 1 point up. Is this the end of the deadlock? Can the Italians fight back? Let's head onto the water for race 8. Emirates Team New Zealand on port. Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli have starboard.
Speeds are even now. Good gap to windward right now for Emirates Team New Zealand. Could be a pretty even start coming off the line here.
Yep. Big push here, fellas. Winding up.
Race 8 of the America's Cup match is on. Clean start by both.
Hey, not super strong here, Pete. Standing by.
Instantly, they've gone into a high mode on Luna Rossa. They're trying to force Emirates Team New Zealand into attack, and there they go straight away. So first blood goes to Luna Rossa.
There's still just a little bubble of breeze on the left-hand side where Prada are. Still a little bit soft. Where Emirates Team New Zealand are going, it's going to be very, very close when they come back together.
Nathan, in the past, I'd say this is the race. The cross is the race, and we did see a pass, so we can't be that confident right now. But this is so critical, and it looks like it's gone the way of the Italians.
I think we cross. The top left seems a bit better, but not here.
So they don't tack on them. There was a lot of discussion about where the best pressure was, and 70 metres, maybe that's not far enough of a lead to tack and consolidate, or maybe they think it's a bit softer on the left boundary, but around the race course, wind is trending down everywhere out there at the moment.
So I'm not looking at the wind on the racecourse right now. I'm looking a couple of miles upwind. I'm looking to see what's coming, what's going to be on the leg 4, 5 and 6, and it is going to get lighter. The breeze is softening up upwind of us, so the rest of this race I expect the breeze to be trending down.
Ideally overlaps the wind.
One and diving.
Down. The driving is going straight for us.
Jim on, boys. Jim's open.
Roll it down.
It's getting softer there. Freddie, is it getting softer out there right now?
It's getting super soft, Nathan. As I'm talking, I see Emirates Team New Zealand touchdown in that critical jibe of Prada's hip, and Prada are sailing away in pressure. Emirates Team New Zealand are stuck in the water right now. Huge gains to Prada.
Big mistake number 1 in this series. Big mistake.
These guys are going just fine. Luna Rossa are going just fine in the pressure they have, but they've got to go back through that light wind. There we go. Emirates Team New Zealand now up and foiling, so clearly there's enough breeze out there to get up and go, but you've got to find those puffs, and this is a monster of a lead at the moment. And here's a really tight situation. These boats are on different legs. New Zealand will get around them here, but this will be... haven't been that close for a while now, have they?
It's Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli on leg 3. Emirates Team New Zealand still to complete leg number 2.
3. Further.
Yeah, very soft here, very soft.
Have a light out of this, boys.
Mining, power up.
Massive cavitation there, boys, on that one.
Uh-oh, but keep it out of the water, boys. This lead could evaporate very quickly.
If they take off, they might just save this here, but that is what they don't want to be doing. 16 knots is not foiling.
And dropping.
Oh, here it comes.
You would do that? Okay.
I think so,
If you don't think you're going to take off, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Slowly coming out, boys.
There might just be another twist in race number 8 of this America's Cup match.
This is the race committee. We are shortening the course to 5 legs, finishing at the windward gate.
One more down, one more up. They're taking one leg away from this race course because the breeze has dropped dramatically. Kiwis on the foils chewing up ground as we speak.
I'm seeing right now this is the tack of this race which is coming up on Emirates Team New Zealand. If they stick this tack and foil around the windward gate, there will be a lead change. But Prada are sailing into better pressure on the left-hand side. These are the moments that will decide this race.
And I think they've nailed it, guys. Still 20 knots of boat speed. They're foiling.
Emirates Team New Zealand about to complete the leg.
They're not even close up. They're going to have to jibe here on the Italians. This has turned into a full-blown disaster for this boat. It's a fall off the foil, lead again. We've seen it happen once here. There's no reason why it can't happen again. But man, you got to feel for those Italians right now, Nathan. We've all been in crummy spots before, but on the world stage.
That was so close.
In one of the craziest races we have seen in this 2021 Cup match, Emirates Team New Zealand have come from behind and are the first team to win 2 races in a single day. They lead 5-3. So drama on the Hauraki Gulf. The Kiwis pay the price for coming off the foils, and then the Italians follow suit. A day of nail-biting racing puts the Kiwis 2 points up. The Italians are now in the fight of their life. Emirates Team New Zealand are just 2 wins away from victory. They have one hand on the old mug, but it's not over by a long shot. Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli has vowed to unleash that never-say-die fighting spirit. Passion and pride is on the line.
Let's get him off line. Boards down. 2.
Mine needs 2. Mine needs 2 here. Get ready, Joshy. Boat lay.
Let's just check the light line.
I think he cannot shut.
All this dance is trying to kill speed. They're still quite early to the line. Spithill trying to keep that gap between the boats.
He cannot shut.
Take off okay in this, but 7 on pin.
New Zealand very early, both boards down. Luna Rossa looking safe. They're not going to get shut out. Let's just follow this chat all the way in.
New Zealand almost off the foils completely. They got to be worried about getting back up in the air here.
Happy to take off? Yep.
Easy.
Going to be second.
He will be slow. All over.
All right, hit.
All the way.
We have a start in race 9 of the America's Cup match. Luna Rossa, Prada, Pirelli, Emirates Team New Zealand, and this is a big race.
Nathan, Burling did a little better job of turning the boat up onto the wind. It almost looked like Luna Rossa skidded a little bit going into that, but they do have a nice gap. But can they hold this distance off of the boat to leeward in order to set up for, like we talked about before, that long port tack coming up?
3, 2, 1.
Luna Rossa really wanting to force Team New Zealand to tacky. Team New Zealand want to hang to the boundary and do the same back to them on the next tack. It's the tightest it's been in a long time.
There we go. Luna Rossa uses that high mode, Nathan, to get rid of the competitor. Really well done, because that was incredibly touch and go.
And you can see Luna Rossa coming to the boundary in this red line here on the bottom of the screen. That's the lay line. If they can make it in one, they could minimize attack. Could be a big gain for Luna Rossa if they make it in one.
And keep starboard tack advantage. Now, here comes a situation where the boat coming from the top of the screen, the Kiwis, if they want to take the left-hand mark, they could potentially get into that circle. Doesn't look like they can get there. They'll be dipping.
Okay, good. Sorry. Pass on the mark.
Top mark for the first time. It is all on in race 9. Splitting the marks, and away they go. There is nothing in this critical race 9 of the America's Cup.
Starboard tack now, advantage for the Italians.
Behind him at the stage.
Question is anyone on lay line at the moment? A big call jibing on Luna Rossa here.
No problem with him.
Yeah, no worries.
A big call by Luna Rossa. Jibes to stay in sync, so they're really setting up the leeward gate, aren't they, Nathan?
They are. Watch for both boats to jibe here in a second.
Yeah, I think we go all the way. Go all the way, boys.
They're going to sail them off the course. They have every right to sail them off the course right now.
Straight.
Aggressive match racing by Luna Rossa. Sailed them right off the course there.
Creating a really tight turn for both boats.
There is nothing in this 9th race. Luna Rossa, Prada, Pirelli lead Emirates Team New Zealand. And they head up for the leg number 3.
Jimmy Spithill at his best. Touch and go for Luna Rossa all the way across the track, but again, they've done a masterful job of keeping themselves in a good position, really with nothing to spare.
And then it'll be a Simo tack here on the port lay line to the top mark. New Zealand's chance here is to accelerate and get a hook here, but right now they are sailing in the bad wind of the other boat. Team New Zealand make a move and take a split. Going to do the extra maneuver.
Yeah, I agree.
You can see the lead has grown massively, but they've still got one more jibe to go, and New Zealand have set themselves up for a split here. Oh, big gains here for Team New Zealand. A bit of action at the bottom mark.
More action at the bottom mark, but it will be Luna Rossa, Prada, Pirelli that rounds gate 4 first. Emirates Team New Zealand, both of them steaming in at plus 40 knots. In your words, Kenny, we got a race.
We got a boat race here, no question about that. This is what we've all been waiting for, frankly. It is interesting they're protecting the left side of the course, though. This is their choice on the Italian boat.
And it's a port tack. When they come back together,
yep,
they lose right away. Surprising.
He's going to have to take this killer, I think.
Has the breeze. Look at that. There's a right-hand shift, and it looks like Team New Zealand have taken the lead
They made the choice. The Italians made the choice to go back to the left side. They had the right side if they wanted it. They made the choice to go back left. It doesn't look like that worked. Devastating for the Italians. A devastating call. They sailed such a beautiful race up until that moment. Just that choice in the shifty conditions of course C.
Emirates Team New Zealand are one step closer to winning the America's Cup, the 36th edition. They have done it quite simply on the last leg. Emirates Team New Zealand crossed the line. It's 6-3.
Talk about a nail-biter. Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli let the Kiwis off the hook on the last leg. The Kiwis are now one race away from winning the America's Cup. It's match point. Can the Italians ruin the party? Let's head to the starting box for race 10.
And he's just gliding into a jibe right now. The real question is New Zealand going to jump them, or are they going to tack and push from above?
New Zealand does not fall for it. They both want the right-hand side. Luna Rossa was barely trying to jibe. They weren't trying to jibe, and the Kiwis didn't let them do it.
So now he's going to try and shut them out. Jimmy Spittle's going to try and shut them out, but Peter Burling looks like he's got plenty of speed.
He's fully downwind here. He's fully downwind. Take a bumper's line. Yeah. Almost all the way here. Nice, guys. Good. Time to speed here, Pete. Watch that. Go. 2, 1.
It's on. Race 10 of the America's Cup Match 2021. Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli, defender, Emirates Team New Zealand.
Key moment in the race. They wanted the right hard there. They actually came in late and didn't mind starting tight. The Kiwis didn't, knowing that they would be tacking soon after. There's not going to be much into it, Nathan, but it looks like first cross, first blood to the Kiwis. Starboard tack advantage coming from the top of the screen.
But what side are they going to protect? Are they going to tack and hit him, or are they going to let them go to the right-hand side?
Pressure straight ahead. Pressure up. Offshore in general.
So Team New Zealand cover there. They want to protect that right-hand side. They got first blood out of the right-hand side. They've now got a small lead.
Good heel.
Left shift back to Prada. What are they going to do? Can they leave bow, or are they going to have to duck?
We're going one for right. I mean, one for right. Yeah, very happy with the bridge on the bow.
Coming up, boys.
Good gain to Luna Rossa. I think this is the first time, Nathan, we've seen the Kiwis ahead and they haven't just simply stretched away. Luna Rossa keeping it tight.
Okay, so they jibe there.
I think there's been a really good gain here by Luna Rossa on this run.
This is one of the very first runs we've seen that Luna Rossa has hung in there or even gained.
Potential JK. Potential JK.
You can see Peter Burling's getting very aggressive now, isn't he? He's just got that little bit of a lead out. You can see on this graphic here that white trail behind the boats is the bad air. It looks like Luna Rossa is sailing just to leeward of that graphic. It's very hard to give your competitor bad air, but I think Peter Burling is saying to his boys, let's shut the race down. Let's not give him a chance to get back into this. If you're a Kiwi fan watching this right now, you're starting to get a little bit excited.
They are 2 legs away from winning the Cup.
We go back to the start of this race, and Peter Burling, both in the press down here and in this booth, has been really having a hard time, taking a hard time in these pre-starts. They had a plan in that pre-start, and they pulled it off. I give him all kinds of credit.
No, you're 100% there, and there's a lot of pressure on the helmsman of any of these boats, and there's a lot of people watching the racing today, and he would love nothing more than to execute a start and lead from the beginning of the race right through, and so far so good.
no quitting in the Italian boat. I'll tell you what, the same communication, that same level of communication, the cadence on board the boat, absolutely zero quit, no sense of panic, but the clock is certainly running on them right now.
Should we go to this one off?
Real puppy, you'll get a good one.
3, 2,
Little knock there.
2, 1, clear, yours.
Nathan, we've talked a lot in this event about the fastest boat always wins the America's Cup. There's been a lot of talk about pretty even boats, et cetera, et cetera. To me, there's been no question. As this series has gone along, and we even mentioned this early on, the Italians had to put them away early. The Kiwis have gotten better. They've gotten race tougher. They've gotten better. And the faster boat is about to win the America's Cup.
3, 2,
Still on starboard as well.
21 years after their first successful defence on home waters, Emirates Team New Zealand do it again in a new class of boat that proves Kiwis can fly. Sailing's most treasured prize, the America's Cup, stays in New Zealand.
Yes, boy. Enjoy the moment, boys. Well done.
Well, if you're going to log a date in the memory banks, it's quite a simple one. St. Patrick's Day 2021, March 17, Emirates Team New Zealand win the 36th edition of the America's Cup. Pete, congratulations. You just won an America's Cup again. How does it feel?
Oh, mate, absolutely unreal. And, you know, I think coming back to the chase boat and just seeing all the people involved in this campaign over 3 or so years, you know, how many Kiwis are out here supporting the event again. You know, we've had messages from everyone from the Prime Minister to high school kids to, you know, just about anyone you can think of support, and it just means the world to us as a team.
Yeah, hey, Pete, we've got Jimmy Spittle and Francesco Bruni listening in. Would you like to say something to the lads?
Yeah, congrats on a great series. You know, it's obviously been really hard fought, and I really love racing against you guys. I think, you know, from all of us here at Team New Zealand, we'd just like to say, you know, well done and great racing. Thanks again.
Thank you, Pete. Thank you.
Let's go on board Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli with Jimmy Spittle and Francesco Bruni. Francesco, hard luck, valiant effort, fantastic series that Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli delivered to everybody in the sailing world. How are you feeling?
Yeah, it's been a fantastic experience. I would just want to congratulate first with Team New Zealand, obviously. They've done a fantastic job. But I think also I need to congratulate with Luna Rossa, an amazing team. I think we proved to the world that we could do it.
Jimmy, it's one of those days for a team that said they would never stop fighting. You guys never stop fighting.
No, it's an incredible team, and really the whole campaign. I really just can't thank the entire team, especially the guys that are on the shore. Obviously, we need to go have a beer with the Kiwis and really pay respect to those guys. But yeah, first things first, got to go and thank all of our teammates who have really just made such a huge amount of effort for us to allow us to get out here and fight it out in the America's Cup.
Jimmy, thanks for your time. Thanks for being a good sport too.
Thanks very much, guys. Grazie, Italia.
There's the scorecard. Race 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. And Emirates Team New Zealand win the America's Cup. The Italians gave it their all, but Emirates Team New Zealand were too slick, too fast, too tough and too dominant. They have sailed into sporting folklore, defended the old mug and given Kiwi fans an excuse to party all night. The 36th America's Cup is over.